So here we are, the Mazda CX-50. It is a ruggedized vehicle, a crossover, can seat up to 5. It's everything what you're asking for, right? But is it a Mazda? Is it a zoom Mazda? And does it make you feel alive? Well, this might be one choice for you if you're looking for a rugged crossover. I'm Randy Stern with George Torline. This is Victory in Reseda. First off, let me address the elephant in the room. We should not confuse this 2023 Mazda CX-50 with the similarly sized CX-5. To begin with, they are from completely different platforms. More on that later. However, we pulled out the measuring tape and give you the size differences between the two. Clearly, there are differences between the CX-5 and the CX-50 beyond just the exterior dimensions. Our Premium Plus tester came equipped with Mazda's Skyactiv 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, putting out 256 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. That is, if you put in premium fuel. Now, you can run this on regular fuel, but you will lose 25 horsepower and 10 pound-feet of torque in the process. This CX-50 is equipped with a 6-speed automatic transmission that sends power to all 4 wheels. Let's get on the road and George and I will talk you through this newest Mazda. So George, here we are in the 2023 Mazda CX-50. Let's talk about the design. I mean, again, we talked about it's a ruggedized vehicle, and right off the bat, that's how Mazda created the CX-50. They want to give it, say, somewhat of a crossover-ish, SUV-ish look. There's some elements that are the same with every Mazda, you know, the Kodo design language. However, they did a few twists and turns with it.
Right, so you'll notice the side cladding that's on the lower sill to give it more of a rugged look. Along with the wheel arches, you'll have a fair amount of the cladding over through there, and the front and back show a bit of a skid plate kind of a look to show its capability for off-roadiness.
Although, don't be fooled by those vent-looking things. They are not real vents.
Except the front has a little area that is a vent for the air curtain past the front wheels. Other than that,
the rear, no.
The rears are fake.
No, the rears are fake, absolutely. Although, you know, it's a design twist that Mazda created, but that's what Mazda wanted to do. They want to be a part of a growing customer base that wants to be more active than your average active lifestyle person.
And this has a bit more of a width presence to it, and by putting those vents there, it helps to fill kind of that space visually, so it makes it look sporty, and it helps balance the visual aspects of the vehicle, I think.
Right, and of course they really played with the grille design, which is one thing that Mazda's been emphasizing for over the last 10 years, that shield type grille. I mean, they widened it, they've narrowed it down, so gives it a little presence, and of course they played with the same design elements you'll find in every Mazda in the back as well. Now let's talk about the interior for a moment. There are some twists and turns in here as well. There's plenty of Mazda elements that are familiar, but there's also a few differences between it and, say, the other models in the lineup. Now, what I was getting at are the vent designs. I mean, these are pretty unique for CX-50. I mean, the climate controls, very much what you can find. Infotainment, of course, it's the Mazda Connect, which some of us are not a fan of.
Yeah, especially those of us who are used to the hands-on touchscreens where you're selecting things. It's just easier, in my opinion, to be able to select what you want instead of having to think about using a rotary knob to translate your desired inputs through that to what you're doing on the screen.
However, it is a touchscreen. It's just that if you're the driver and you don't have long enough arms,
I can't reach it.
Exactly. It's like the old Lexus design. Although Lexus has been moving the screens further towards the driver, which is great. Mazda, your turn.
Yeah, they could have easily pulled the screen forward closer to the driver and passenger so that they would be able to reach it and manipulate it however they kind of went with the same design that they've used in the past.
Of course, like you mentioned, Mazda Connect is mostly controlled by a big dial in the console, and you can do some of the controls on the steering wheel. However, I found that there's some quirks. I mean, we now call them Mazda quirks at that.
Right.
You can't do some controls on the steering wheel, and also as we found out on the climate control, in order to turn off the auto, we have to override it by working the fan. We don't want to complain a lot, but I got to tell you, these seats look comfortable. They're a little bit on the firm side though.
Yeah, they don't seem to have a lot of give in the feeling of plushness. They give the appearance of plushness, but over time it starts to kind of feel a little hard, and you're wanting to kind of adjust, and it's just not quite what I think people would want for a long road trip.
Right, I agree. Rear seat room is not bad. You have plenty of headroom. I mean, leg room depends on how long your legs are. If you're like me with your average size legs, you'll be okay, but not for long road trips. Cargo space is pretty generous. We have plenty of video equipment in the back, and along with some of my stuff, and I mean, there's plenty of room to put even more.
When you flip the seats down, you do have latches on the sides that you can use to flip the seats down when you're standing in back. And that really opens up the cabin for cargo even more.
For the most part, we could easily say, yep, it's a Mazda. If you've been familiar with the entire lineup, with the exception of the MX-5 Miata, if you're familiar with all the crossover SUVs, yes, it's got everything that you're looking for in these vehicles. The CX-50 is different in a way that, yes, you have a higher ride height, you have sort of a narrower, sort of a lower body in all.
It almost looks wagonish if you look at it. But yeah, the roof line is lower than the CX-5, but the ride height is higher. So it kind of has a little bit of a narrower visual appearance and wider for sure.
And you talk about wagon-esque. I mean, yeah, it could be a competitor to the Subaru Outback. But if you're trying to compare this to, say, any of the SUVs in the market, like a Hyundai Santa Fe or a Kia Sorento or something to that effect, it wouldn't fit in that competitive set. Now, the one thing that Mazda's been trying to do is they are trying to move up market into, a much more expensive and much more luxurious space. And it's showing because the touch points here are pretty good. I mean, they have this very soft, leathery piece that goes across the instrument panel. And, there's some soft materials all around. I wouldn't say it's completely squidgy, but do have some feeling of upmarket ambitions.
And it pretty much goes around most of the cabin, and the door panels, the door cars a little bit lower. You get back into the hard plastics again, but then that's helpful for durability. But from a premium standpoint, you would think they would start doing some felt lining of things like the glove box, maybe like some of the compartments in the doors to help dampen some of the noise as items shift around in there.
One of the concerns I have is the selection of tire for this vehicle right out the factory. Now, I understand that, yes, you want to have a quieter ride when you're on the highway, and these are suitable for highway drives. But let's say you live in a place somewhere out here in the country where the only way to get there is a gravel road. You might want to consider the type of tire you want to put on this vehicle.
Especially if you experience inclement weather like snow or lots of rain where you have lots of mud on your drives. A better tire suited to those harsher conditions would be appropriate to switch to versus these stock tires that they provided.
Well, George, you've been driving this for a little bit. Well, what do you think of the ride on this?
I think it's an interesting vehicle with the all-wheel drive on this model and the turbo motor. It gives it a bit of a spry performance. It does most of the things that you would want. I find the suspension to be a little bit tight. In fact, you probably heard my voice bouncing around on some of the ruts in the road here. It does use a torsion beam rear suspensions. On smooth roads, I thought it was very nice.
Now, brakes wise, I thought the brake action is pretty good.
Yeah, I think the stops were firm and well modulated.
Mm-hmm.
No complaints with the brakes on my part.
However, what about the steering?
You know, it has a ratio of steering that is a little bit more than I would like. I have to turn the wheel more than I'm used to, especially if you're maneuvering around perhaps in a parking lot. You're going to be turning the wheel a bit more than you'd like.
Right, on center field is not bad. It's just that you got to, I mean, there's really no control that enables it to really lock in the steering while you're on stretches of highway. So handling's not bad. Again, you know, the whole thing is that compromise between ride height and being able to make it feel zoom and feel alive at the same time.
Right.
In our infrared thermal tests with the heated seats, we found the front seat backs to offer good coverage of heating elements, though the seat bases employed largely just one strip midway across the seat bottoms, and then more towards the edge for the leg area just above the knees. The rear seats follow a similar pattern with the heating elements, though the seat back elements appear to be not as wide as the fronts. The front seats are ventilated. In our 14-degree terrain obstacle test, our tester Mazda CX-50 in Premium Plus trim with its 8.6 inches of ground clearance passed our tests. It had room to spare with its 18.4 degree approach angle and 24.7 degree departure angle, and several inches to spare at the breakover point. Please note some of these stats may vary by trim model.
You have a choice of 10 trim levels, including 4 turbocharged models. Pricing for the 2023 Mazda CX-50 starts at $27,550. Our tester came with a sticker price of $43,970. So here we are, the 2023 Mazda CX-50, a ruggedized crossover / SUV that's right for any adventure that you're looking for. However, is it still got a little zoom to it? I think so. Does it make you feel alive? Well, get behind the wheel and find out, and take it for a little adventure. So, if you like what you've watched, don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the notification bell to find out when the next video comes out from us. And log on to randystern.net for all the great content that we have at Victory in Reseda. I'm Randy Stern with George Torline. Thank you for watching.